Hello and welcome to Human Design Definition, the Masterclass. So, this particular topic is really transformational in your human design journey. And it was one that eluded me personally for quite a long period of time. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not so sure because it's a core piece of our basic architecture within our human design chart. Your definition is one of the top sort of 3 or 4 things in the listing of your human design information. So you'll have your aura type, you'll have your authority, you'll have your profile, and then definition is usually up there. And yet it's not the easiest piece of information to receive, and it's also not the easiest to integrate. But what I realized through my own process was it's incredibly important if you want to human with other humans on the physical plane, which we are all here for that. So let's dive into this experience, and I trust this is going to give you a lot of value, not just for yourself and looking at this through the lens of your own design and wanting that information to better know yourself, but more importantly, and this is my projector motivation, is to know the other and to understand this beautiful dance that humans have with each other and the electromagnetic connections and polarity that our human design is bringing to those connections, for better or for worse. So this is a really key area of knowledge within your design that is going to help you navigate your interpersonal relationships, your work relationships across the board. So let's dive into the topic itself. We're going to look at what is fixed in you, so your definition by definition. Why this matters, the R word, is relationships. I really feel that this is key for understanding of relationships and how you function within those dynamics, but also your relationship to yourself. For me, it was very transformational. We're going to look at the 4 main circuitry types that define your definition. So we have single definition, we have split of varying forms. Within the split topic, we'll be going into a simple split and then the more complex splits, such as a broad split. We have triple splits and we have quadruple splits. So you should fall somewhere in there in your own design. And if you don't already know what your definition is, before you go any further in this class, please grab your basic chart. The information will be there and then follow along. So definition defined. Now, even at the most basic level, when you're learning the lingo of human design, we talk about the centers being defined or undefined. And so that is a form of definition. It's essentially anywhere in your chart that is colored in and not white. So definition can be seen in gates, in channels, in our centers, and overall in our circuitry. That's the kind of final map that is produced from these distinct areas of definition throughout our body graphs. So your definition is your human design blueprint. It's what remains fixed in you. It's what you can hang your hat on, so to speak, that will be reliably you day in, day out. All of the white, all of the undefined is where we go to school in life. It's where we are receptive to other humans, to the transits, to the world around us, and to that big bad wolf conditioning, which is not such a big bad wolf in the grand scheme of things. It's meant to be there. So if we lift the hood, this is what we see and how you are designed to operate with the least resistance in life. It's vital information for deconditioning, and it's very, very key to really personalizing your strategy and authority. The components of your definition are your life force. Whether it's an energy center or not, these are your life force points of contact within your body graph. 2 defined gates in 2 different centers connected by a channel is a defined channel is part of defined circuitry. So we're going to have a look at some body graphs. If this is quite new for you, it's okay. Just follow along as best you can. It gets easier to look at the body graphs and see things over time. It's like anything when you're learning, if you're learning. If you're not, just enjoy the information. So I'm always in a position to be able to share my own chart. I don't need to get consent from any of my clients for that. I can use my own. And I'm very happy for my chart to be publicly out there. I have nothing to hide. I'm always very fascinated to know who I'm receiving information from and how it is being filtered, and being very transparent about areas that I may be conditioned. And I think that that's kind of, a modern day disclaimer, is to put up your human design and say, this is who I am, these are my vulnerabilities, and these are my points of definition. This is really who I am, and it's consistent. So just to go through, but if you're not familiar with the body graph, this particular map that I'm showing here is advanced. This is advanced. So if you're not used to seeing your body graph, your gates, the magic squares, so to speak, displayed in this way, don't worry. Let's just focus on the definition. So we've got all of the centers within the body graph. If they are white, they are undefined or open. And if they're colored in, then they're defined. So the centers are fairly straightforward. We are in a 9-centered bioform. Homo sapien intransitus, to be precise. We've evolved through 5 and 7 centers, and we've got another one to go. Just a side note. So where else have I got definition here? You can see all of these numbers that have a little bit of tone around them that are defined. They are my gates. And those gates can also be found throughout these areas on either side of my chart, whether they're defined from my design perspective or defined from my personality perspective. And then we have the colored channels, either red, meaning that they are defined on your design side, black is defined from your personality side. And essentially, if you've got a defined gate, then that half of that channel will be defined. And so we end up with this interesting combination, this unique imprint of your definition. And so, for example, with gate 48, I do not have the corresponding gate 16. So I don't have this channel, but I have the gate. So we could call that a hanging gate. So 16, we would use the terminology a bridge. 16 becomes a bridge to gate 48, for example. Here, I've got the 3313. I have this channel. You can see that the entire channel is colored in. I have this defined. This channel is consistently available within my chart. Okay, hopefully that breaks down some terminology and gives you a little bit of visual of what all of this talk is actually referring to within the language of human design. So let's look at the breakdown in our population of different types of definition. So single definitions are around 41%, split definitions are 45%, and there are a variety of splits within split definition as far as how simple it is or how complex and broad it is. Triple splits are a unique subtype of not subtype, they're a unique type of split within themselves, and they are 11% of the population. Quadruple splits are the most rare. They are 0.65% of the population, and no definition, our reflective friends, around 2% of the population. So let's dive into why all this matters, because it's all about relationships with yourself, but even more importantly and more vulnerably, relationships with others. Your definition defines you. Your openness is your receptivity for others. All of that white is like receptors that are looking for something to lock onto. Therefore, the openness is the strongest conditioning force. And we hear this in surface level basic human design teaching. It's like, watch out for all the whiteness because that's where you're going to be in your not self theme. Yes, but you can also have not self themes within your definition, depending on how you've been conditioned as you've been brought up, and you've essentially been raised to not identify with your definition. The definition within your body provides a frame for your strategy and authority. It really provides that extra seasoning, the condiment, the nuance to your strategy and authority. So, for example, you might be a projector and let's say you're an emotional projector like me, you've got to wait for the invitation. The emotional authority is also a bit more spacious, there's a bit of waiting in there. But knowing how my circuitry works, knowing that I am a split definition is going to add an extra amount of nuance to that, depending on who I'm orbiting around and what transits are orbiting me. So know yourself first. This is the point of human design. As a projector, I love to get to know other people through their human design. It's natural for projectors to desire to do that in particular. Generators love to know their self. So they've got this down. Now, the reason that we need to know ourselves is so we can take self-responsibility for how we show up when we're engaging with other humans. So if you are, there's a couple of simple rules of thumb here. If you want to particularly learn about other people in your life and have a quick look at their definition, the single definitions and the triple split definition, their centers, the big centers within the body graph, will be the strongest conditioning force for them. Alternatively, if you are a split or a quad, then your gates, not so much the centers at all, the gates, the bridging gates, or channels, if you've got a more complex split, will be the strongest conditioning force. So it's very different. And where people might think, oh, a triple split and a quadruple split, they must be pretty similar, right? They're actually very different from a conditioning point of view and very different with how they are designed to operate correctly within the public and private spaces. And we'll get to that towards the end. The broad split, gates and channels are your bridges, as I've just mentioned. Okay, single definition. If your mind is running your life, it's the strategy of the open centers that are running your life. This is from Ra. So this really anchors in this point that for single definition, your area of concern, your area of just be discerning and be attentive to are the centers, your white, undefined centers. If you've got a center, for example, in this body graph that has zero definition, that center is going to be more vulnerable, more open, more receptive than, say, the head center in this person that has a couple of defined gates. So these are the areas to watch if you're a single definition for the strongest conditioning forces, and watch for the not self themes of these centers being expressed. What you want to do is turn all of that on its head, and you want to be anchoring into and trusting what is defined in you and not allowing your openness, the potential not self-conditioning of that openness, to be running your life. And that's where the mind is getting in, running your life, because the mind is the one that is going to be conditioned, and the mind is sort of expressing your conditioning. So your definition is just waiting there for you to plug into it. And the harder bit is to trust it and start dialing down the mind and everything the mind is trying to say to tell you what to do in life, dialing that right down and allowing your definition to speak through your strategy and authority. The key point for single definitions is when you feel good in the standing alone, you are ready to embrace what your design promises. You are here to be very autonomous in the world. You can navigate your life really independently from other humans. You don't need the other. They're not here to give you as much access to your wisdom as what they are for the split definitions. So this is an example of a single definition here. And it's a nice one because it's a little bit more intricate. So with a single definition, all the defined centers are connected in a continuous circuit. There's no breakpoints, there's no split, so to speak. So for example, if we start over here at the spleen, in this person, this is a manifester. We start at the spleen. We've got a circuit going directly to the heart or the ego center. We've then got a complete circuit going up to the throat center, defining this manifester. And we've also got a connection going down to the solar plexus, also defining this manifester. So this particular configuration, you can see the energy can flow through every one of the defined centers. So it's a single definition. So let's have a look. Where are your vulnerability points if you're a single definition in the openness? So just quickly, this should be basic knowledge, but it means it's important as well to really understand what the not self themes are for your open centers. So let's start down at the sacral. Not knowing when enough is enough. That is the not self theme to watch out for. It's a big pitfall for projectors in particular, and also our manifestor friends that both have this open in particular, with all that generator energy in 70% of the population around us, defining this in us, but it doesn't belong to us. The spleen, if it's open, your not self theme is the potential to be holding on to what isn't good for you. I can definitely relate to this. I have an open spleen. The root, being in a hurry or rushing. The root is one of our 2 pressure centers, so it's something to be very aware of. That's coming from outside of you. It doesn't belong to you. You're not here to be like pressured and rushing. It doesn't work in your favor. Solar plexus, one of my favorites, avoiding confrontation and truth. This is one of those big polarity pieces in relationships. Avoiding confrontation and truth, our emotional center. So watch for that if you've got an open solar plexus. The G center in the middle here, seeking love and direction, not self theme of the open G. The not self theme of the heart or ego center, really common one. 70% of the population have this open, needing to prove or improve yourself. And aren't we in an era right now where everybody is seeking self-improvement, it seems? It's like this drug. It's like this merry-go-round that none of us really know how to get off, because we have this almost infinite number of resources and courses and programs and tools and strategies and coaches and mentors to improve us. So it's a really tricky area to be navigating modern life through. The ajna, if you have an open ajna, you can occasionally or too regularly pretend you have mental certainty, and you don't. You're not here to have mental certainty. So don't pretend that you do. Don't imagine that you do. Don't let your mind tell you that you do, because that is not consistent for you. The head, open head, classic again. Lots of us with this, asking questions that don't matter, getting stuck, getting stalled, getting delayed in analysis paralysis with an open head. This is a not self theme of the open head center. So single definitions, look at where your openness is in your chart, have a look at that list, and these are the things to really, really focus on and observe yourself in your day-to-day life. And these are the areas that you really want to be keeping clean and clear, and making sure that they stay open for you to gain your wisdom through life, but they're not defining who you are in the world. Let's get on to the really juicy stuff, the split definition. So the splits, my heart goes out to you. 45% of us split definitions in the world. My goodness, are we creating some problems? Okay, the nice quote that I want to give you from Ra is this: needing to have something that's not yours to have. You could really say this for any area of anyone's chart that has openness. It's this need, though, with a split definition. There's this need that's driving it. Why is it a need? Because split definitions have this deep, maybe unconscious sense of feeling incomplete in the world. So there's needing that completion. So it's a very, very different drive and force in their life compared to other aspects of seeking that kind of polarity with the openness and definition between other people and transits. This is a real need. So the defined areas that don't connect to each other. So let's have a look with a split definition. It basically means that there is a break point within the circuitry. It's not continuous. So for example, of this chart here, if we have a look, we've got a defined sacral. This must be a generator. They've got some nice channels that are connecting up to the G center, but we've got a problem. The G center is not connected anywhere else, and we need some connection for completion to actually go to this other area, these other two areas, maybe the head, yeah. These other two areas where we do have circuitry. So you can see that on this chart, and this is by definition a split, you have got two distinct areas of flow. So if we look here, we've got the head connecting to the ajna through the 6124. We've got the ajna defined, connected to the throat through the 4323. But then where does this energy go? Nowhere. We've got a break point here. It's almost connected, almost, but not. And then down here, we've got this strong connection between the G center and the sacral, but then it's got nowhere to go. The circuit breaks off here. So this is a really nice chart of a split definition. So these split definitions, the splits essentially provide the background drive for our need to bond and find bridges. Serious stuff. So this really is all about our very primal instincts to kind of bond, be in the tribe, to reproduce, safety in the family, all of that stuff. The split definitions where they're really seeking that through these bonds, and they're through the bridges. So for example, we look at this particular body graph and we can see that where this split is, this particular human is going to be really seeking gate 7, gate 13, or gate 8. If this human is able to find that definition in another human, that's going to complete their circuitry. They're going to feel complete. And they may identify that completion with the other person being their perfect person because they're completing them. They're only completing them in one way, though, which is actually a little bit limiting. So there's this sense of completeness, comfort, safety, wholeness in the aura of others. That is very, very intoxicating because you really do feel that you are meeting a need. It's like a survival instinct. But just because the circuitry, the mechanics is clicked in, does not mean that that particular other is right for you. Just because the polarity works at one level, or maybe even two, does not mean that the circuitry within that particular human at this particular season is correct for you. Dangerous stuff. So you can also get this sense of wholeness through the transits. So it's not just humans, because what else can define gates? The transits. And I'll show this in a couple of slides. So as a split definition, beware that transits and others are transitory, even in long-term committed relationships. You are only receiving that completion when they are physically present. So that can really cause some problems, because when that person is not physically present, you're going to feel incomplete, and you start to have all these romantic ideas about your soulmate and them completing you. And I'm not trying to kill all the romantics out there. I'm a bit of a romantic too. But once I understood this electromagnetic mechanical process that's kind of bringing us together in different configurations, that it's really mechanical, then you can kind of just enjoy the emotional ride and not get so hung up on the mind giving it all this meaning that doesn't exist. You can give meaning to a relationship that is really unhealthy for you, and you'll stay in it for longer than you should, particularly if you've got an open spleen. So just be very aware that this is transitory. It's part of the flow of life. Don't cling too strongly to anything in life other than your definition. The others will provide the strongest conditioning force for you. So just be aware of that, particularly if those others are very strongly bonded. So parental people, your parents in basic English, your parents have a very powerful conditioning force over you. Your siblings, your children, your closest friends, your intimate others, these provide the strongest conditioning force. So it is of great value to know the human design of your closest people so that you can bring awareness to this. It's not about your mind then saying they're bad for me, they're causing me to feel this way. No, that's okay. It's just bringing your awareness to it. Maybe that bond needs to be broken, but maybe it doesn't. It just needs some awareness, some compassion, some love poured into it so that you can disengage from the mind stories that are messing up your relationships with these people, and you can just get on with being in the flow of life and accepting that you are limited as a human, as is this other human are limited as well. And together, maybe you're even more limited, and it's time to let bygones be bygones and bid each other farewell. Let your strategy and authority decide, though, not your mind. Split definition. Can you discern the correct other? This is the most important question to take away, because if you think mentally about your split too much, once you know it's there, you're just going to go backwards in your experiment as opposed to forwards. We want you to be in the experiment, and in the experiment means your mind's not running the show at all. Your strategy and authority through your body is running the show, is driving the vehicle. So discerning the correct other, your vehicle might be stopped at the traffic light and there's a really, really attractive other going by because the electromagnetic connection is there. But then the authority and the strategy needs to come through and make that call, not the mind. So even if you enter into something or someone correctly, according to strategy and authority, it doesn't mean either that it's going to be idyllic and perfect or last forever. That's not the point of this. But even if it doesn't work out, it's been of value if you've entered into it correctly. And third lines know this more than anybody. If we run our lives correctly through our strategy and authority, we are not crashing and burning every time we hit a wall. We bounce off because that wall, we were supposed to go into it and we were supposed to bounce off it and take the lesson with us. So third lines get this more easily than some other types. Maybe the sixth lines as well, because you had your third line era if you navigated it with ease. So it's all about bridges with your split definition, all about the bridges. Various types of splits are possible within the 45%. So there's two main ones that I'm going to try and address. And one I've already talked about. This is the simple split, and this is where you've got a single gate, or in this case, this person has three different bridges. But if any one of those three are defined, then that channel is actually going to be defined, and then you've got the circuitry complete. So you don't need all of them on any given day. One of them will do the job. So this one is still a simple split. Not simple split is where you've got multiple gates in completely different centers that are not nearby each other, or whole channels are needed to actually bridge the body graph. We spend a bit of time on splits because they're important. So a simple split is a single gate. The theme of the bridging gate becomes a psychological conditioning of something you lack. Psychological conditioning is not true. It's the mind trip again, something you lack, and therefore you end up on this like ravenous drive to seek it for that completion. Something that you need out there from him, from her, from that course, from that mentor, from that job. You pursue that gate for completion. So if you are a simple, single, split definition, then Know your gates. Know which are those bridging gates. Know them back to front and upside down so that you can really identify and be very clear when that is showing up and you're pursuing it and you're chasing it because you're designed to. So that's kind of a not self approach to bridging our split. And you just want to have awareness on that, and you've already broken the spell. So learn what those bridging gates are. You can just Google the information. It's all available online. Try and get good sources, but find out what your bridging gates are about. And I love to share this because so many of us in our human design journey, we will only focus on what is defined in our chart. And in definition, in split definition, you want to do the opposite. You want to look at where those points of vulnerability are. So it's really important. Don't just focus on your defined gates. You've probably got many of them. It's not about learning them all. I would focus your time more as early as you recognize that it's important on those bridging gates. It's going to smooth out your process so much more quickly than memorizing your defined gates in your chart. If you are an extra blessed person like me and your split is not simple, you have multiple gates or whole channels that are providing those bridges or that are needed for bridging, then you've got the opposite problem. You don't feel that you're lacking all of those areas of where those bridges could be. You don't feel you lack that. You're looking out in the world and going, everybody else is lacking this. And because they aren't providing it, they aren't doing it, I'm missing out. And it starts this awful blame cycle. I can honestly say I felt this sensation within me and this belief and this projection out on the world. Everyone else is the problem, not me. It still shows up. It's an area of work. If everyone else was all right, then I would be all right, So that's how it can go. So just be very, very aware. If you've got a bit more of a broad split, it may be called a wide split. I don't know if anyone else is using any other lingo out there. Ra's terminology was a broad split. Then it basically means be very, very aware of this potential in you to kind of have this eyes out, thinking everyone else is the problem and not you. Just turn it back on yourself. And it's not about then making those bridges something you need to seek. Don't turn into a simple split definition. That's not the point. Just don't be out there shooting your venom out to the outside world. Okay, let's have a look here at how a human and the transits can actually cause this beautiful electromagnetic polarity and bridge your splits and give you completion in your circuitry or continuity within your circuitry, and how that can actually be beautiful and magical. But remember, it's always transitory. So the first example I'm going to give is that lovely generator chart that we looked at from the beginning with the simple split where we had the 7, 8, and the 13. These gates here are our bridging gates. Now, beautifully, I actually just looked this up the other day when I was preparing these presentations. And here we have it. We had an amazing transit. It's actually still going through of Gate 13 and Gate 7 are sitting in the Sun and Earth in the transits. Now, these transits will only last about a week. If you've got something like last year, before Pluto moved out of Gate 60, Pluto was in Gate 60 for a good long while, I was basically getting a defined sacral as a projector. And it was a transit. And so not only was I living with a manifesting generator that was providing a lot of sacral energy, but I had Pluto in Gate 60 giving me the truth of what an overworked sacral can really do to me. And that was something, a transit that I took on as being part of me because it was around for so long. But Pluto has now moved to 41. So the reason I share that is because the outer planets move more slowly. So if an outer planet is in a gate, that is going to last for a bit longer and it won't be as transitory as these faster transits that happen within the Earth, Sun, and Moon, for example. These are a little bit more fluid and they move through a bit more quickly. So they're good ones to track because you will feel and notice the differences much more easily than the slower moving planets further away. So here, this particular sacral generator managed to get 7 and 13. So now there's 2 complete channels that are completing their circuitry. Interestingly, as part of the other transits that were going through, this generator also got a defined spleen, and also, this is always a fun time, got a defined ego. This is a great time. You're just like, oh, I am so in it. I am on fire. I am in alignment. Be careful. No, you're not. The transit's working for you and it's going to unplug at some stage. So this is the fun of your design. This is the dance, the movie of life where you just allow it to unfold. You move with the seasons, with the transits, with the humans around you. Don't cling on to any of it, just anchor into your definition, because the rest is just a wild ride that you cannot control, even with the most determined mind to control everything. You will not be successful. So you may as well take your hands off the steering wheel and let your strategy and authority navigate and drive you, and let your passenger watch the view outside and just enjoy as much as you can. So I hope that's demonstrated the transits really well for you and the power of transits. This alone is very, very powerful information to understand about this transitory nature of our day-to-day lives and of our design. So how else can this happen between a human and another human? And also mammals, but I'm going to get onto that towards the end. So I am a broad split, a wide split. Now, as much as I love human design and I think that having a reading is of huge value, not all the readers necessarily bring the information through to you in a reading that is of the most value. A lot of human design readers have been taught a very formulaic way of doing a reading, and they're not necessarily able to really do an intuitive, quantum, pulling it all together, practical application for you and your life. It's more just an information session. And that's where I was the victim of a bit of a disservice. And this happened across 2 different readings and also in mentorship with human design. So it can happen, but I trust it was part of my journey and my process, which is also led me to be quite passionate about sharing definition with others, because I had this big gaping wide split. So it's been a journey for me. So what I'm demonstrating here is this again is my chart. So why do I have this broad split? I mean, the easiest way to look at it, you can see that I've got quite a bit of definition in my chart. However, there's a lot of whiteness over here. There's a lot. And so that's the easiest way to sort of see my broad split. Essentially, and that's where most readers will kind of go, oh yeah, so, you could get some bridging here. My areas of definition, I've got my solar plexus and my root connected by my 1419. They're hanging out alone. And they're a long way from my G center, throat, and ajna. In the body graph sense, they're a long way away. A lot of things could happen, need to happen to bridge my split, as they would say. Now, that can happen with the other, and it can happen with transits, the same way as for everybody else. This body graph over here is the composite body graph, a companion chart of myself and my partner. So this is what happens when me, projector 3-5 emotional authority, gets together with a manifesting generator sacral authority. So this is what happens for us in particular. It's a great chart. I think a lot of people would love this chart. But when it's kind of pulled apart into its separate components, there can be a lot of codependency created. Let's call it what it is. So he completes me as a split definition, but not in the smoothest way. So this one reader did describe this to me. So you look and you think, well, over here would be the most obvious. Let's get this solar plexus throat connected. Then, things are going to flow. And he doesn't do that for me. But with his manifesting generator channels, we've got a lot going on over here. So we actually both end up with a defined spleen. Individually, neither of us have a defined spleen, but I have a lot of splenic gates defined. So together, we get a defined spleen, which is great. When we're together, we're like, yeah, let that go, let that go, let that go, let that go, which is great. We get a defined ego. So our relationship has an ego more than the two of us, which has been interesting to navigate. But what I want to show you is, so I had an era where I felt complete with him. You know, this poor, broad split, I had spent so much of my life feeling very incomplete. To get very personal, I was deeply yearning for a relationship, but at the same time, it terrified me because of conditioning I'd had growing up. And for me, I was programmed and conditioned to seek a career for safety, certainty, security, autonomy, all of those things. And I then could make this idea in myself that my career would complete me, that I wouldn't need any other humans, that I would put all of my energy and drive and ambition into a career, and that career would complete me, because we're kind of told those stories out there. That was not my truth, because my career does not have a body graph. There was no gates or channels that my career could provide for me. I was navigating through transits and through colleagues that at times I felt like my career was completing me, but the overall story was no. And of course, after 15 years of working through that pathway, I finally realized that this place, that this career, this job, this identity of this profession is never going to fully complete me. Thank goodness that's the only amount of insight I had at the time, because it gave me the courage to jump out of it before I even knew my human design. So that came later. I had to take that leap first. And now, once I knew that I have a broad split, that I've really got this huge vulnerability on a day-to-day basis to feel very incomplete. And I've got a behavioral pattern of seeking out that completion through self-development, through education, through learning more. So as we learn, as we grow, this is how it goes. So once I understood this, this has been the most powerful lever to bring emotional intelligence, compassion, and spiritual awareness into my relationship. Because without this body of work, I think I would have made a big mess of it, or, and I was very close to doing this, made a complete mess of myself, because I completely surrendered into this completeness that I felt with this other human that is not correct. And it was actually keeping me out of my truth, my definition, my authority, my way of operating as a projector. So it's very, very powerful to know this information, particularly as a split definition, so that you can have the healthy relationship, but understand where your vulnerabilities are within that. And for your partner, my partner is a single definition. He has no idea. He misses me because we've got projector, mani, gen, polarity. And that polarity is very strong. Projector generator polarity is very, very strong. We're designed to want to be together. But with his single definition, he doesn't have this sense that I complete him, but he enjoys being with me. He feels a bonding with me. And there's something there electromagnetically, but it's not the same as what my definition is producing within me mechanically. Okay, let's move on out of my personal life. Let's get back to the actual knowledge and the content here. So splits won't feel whole or complete without the other transit. It is going to be a normal, grumbling, inner restlessness in you. And the sooner that you recognize it, you pour love into it, you pour awareness into it, and you just get on with your life, the better things will be for you. You will have less resistance, you will trust your strategy and authority even more, and you'll have more compassion and patience with yourself. This is such a strong conditioning force. Everything that determines how you think about who you are is determined by your relationships. So your number one job as a split definition is to absolutely Amplify your discernment on the relationships you have, on the humans that are in your life, because they will condition you day after day, no matter what. And the more that you can bring your awareness to that, the more that you can reflect regularly on, is this still a yes, this interaction? Am I still invited as a projector, for example? These are questions you need to ask, because your relationships are going to be such strong forces in your life for good, but also potentially for bad. So this potential for this dependency, this kind of like soulmate, this forevermore idea, be very, very careful according to your mechanics. The split may be bridged, but not from the correct being for you. So just be mindful. Women are very familiar with our hormones driving us. Your split is going to drive you in the same way. So just be aware of it. Don't fall victim to it. Allow, be compassionate. Strategy and authority is absolutely essential for splits. Absolutely essential. Step outside of your bridge. If you are in a relationship and that relationship must be at some level providing a bridge for you, you must step out of it. Step the relationship into public aura often, so that within the relationship, you guys are getting different dynamics and different definitions sparking off within the public aura as well. And also step outside independently from each other. We are not supposed to be with each other 24/7 all the time, especially if you are sleeping, and I mean sleeping with your significant other. You're being conditioned during that time as well. So if that is your sleeping arrangement, then you need to make sure in your waking hours that you are spending time outside of that polarity, of those bridges. It will give you a greater lens and a clearer sensation of what is you outside of that particular bond. The more you know that, the more you can sense yourself in the world, the smoother your life is going to be, and the more confidence that you will have in your strategy and authority leading your life. Oh, we're still going with split definition. We're nearly there. When the split definition embraces the other, any other, with awareness, it sacrifices nothing of itself. But when it embraces the other in ignorance, it sacrifices everything. Chills. Be very aware. Don't give up your gifts. Don't give up yourself for even the sexiest electromagnetic charge out there. Make sure that you are still you, and as a split definition, just make peace with that sense of incompletion, and don't put that pressure on the other person either. They are not here to complete you. It's not their job. The danger is usually as a split, the benefit will be for the other person. For example, in my relationship with a single definition, particularly projectors, be aware. Projectors are very, very sexy to generators energetically. So it's very easy for us to fall victim into the wrong bonds. And as a projector, you will have your energy drained, your time drained, your awareness will be wasted, your guidance will be completely falling on deaf ears, and it will just create a lot of bitterness for you in your process. And it's not good, not healthy for anybody. Splits must have an authority over who is in their life. You must execute authority over who is in your life. And this can sound harsh, but you've got to let people go to let people come in that are more correct for you. And this is getting us into really tricky territory, particularly as we move into post-2027. We're leaving the cross of planning. We're leaving the familial bargain. We're leaving the marriage bond where we've got that 49-19 mutation happening that is going to completely disrupt how we've navigated these bonding patterns and these relationships and these loyalties before. It's all changing. And we're kind of seeing that starting to unfold already. So we're moving into a time where kids are divorcing their parents. Like, it's a thing. These are not incorrect things to be going on. We're just moving into an era where it's kind of going to be more supported. So now more than ever, we're moving into a brave new world where you can choose your family, you can choose your friend, and you can absolutely choose your relationship. And you should do that if you're a split definition for your health and well-being, for your purpose, your mission on this plane. In this life, you need to be very discerning who you are bonded with, who you are sharing time and energy with. Forget soulmate stuff here. I never thought I'd say that. I love a rom-com like the rest of us, but they're just mind fodder, guys. They're entertainment. It's not real life. This is not a needle in a haystack scenario. The bridges are all over the haystack, and it doesn't mean they're the correct bridges. I love this quote from Ra. He's just got some fabulous metaphors. The bridges are all over the haystack, and it doesn't mean they're the correct bridges. Be discerning. Your distraction are your bridges in life. They can be a source of pain in your life. Reflect on those bridges. When you look at them, they may actually be very obvious to you, like, yeah, that's been something that I've always been seeking and driving for and thinking I needed to be, do, or have. And it was never supposed to be part of your design in the first place. It was a place to grow wisdom. Beautiful. You've done that. But leave it there. Don't identify with it as needing it to be something about you. Splits will notice that as they follow strategy and authority, some relationships will naturally fall away. This is what happens in the experiment. Life just starts to support you. It's something that I can't describe in any other way. Until you start living your design and starting to see the evidence of that, people will fall away, scenarios will fall away, jobs will fall away, things are going to fall away, but so much is going to come to you that is correct for you as part of that process. It's not all having to lose and let go. So, for example, as a projector, are you still recognized and invited in this relationship? Reflect on that often in all of your relationships, in anywhere that you might be getting bridged by other people. Make sure that this is not something that you're holding on to for the wrong reasons and that you are still recognized and invited. If you're not, that's your cue. Your strategy and authority is like, there's no invitation here. I'm not recognized. Move on. And we move on. Okay. Triple split. You guys are fun. You are very different. Don't let anybody tell you that you operate like a conventional split, because you don't. Oh, you guys are fun. Okay, so a triple, 3 parts, 3 energetic areas within the body graph, and they are all working autonomously. But in order for your decision making to be correct, they need to talk and reach consensus before the decision can be made. And each part has its own little agenda. So it's like you've kind of got to get all the board members together to make the best decision. If you've just got 2 board members talking on the side, you're not going to have the best outcome for the organization as a whole. So this is a triple split example. So we have got 2 centers connected with definition, the head and the ajna up here. We've got a break point, a split. We have another area of connectivity between our throat and our solar plexus here. Are they connected? No. We've got another split. Where's the third area that's connected? It's right here. Ego, soul, spleen, and root. Root, spleen, ego. So you've got 1 here, 2 here, and 3. Triple split. Okay, 11% of the population. So your conditioning is very, very similar to a single definition. Just forget the split for a moment. You actually are much more similar to a single definition than a split, because it's all about the open centers for you. Thank goodness. Because you have too many thousands and thousands of combinations that your individual gates and channels can bridge you. There's just too many. So you go back to centers. So for this particular triple split, sacral, And G center. Oh, G center's a doozy because it's all about identity. And this person has it open. So not self-theme here is extremely important, especially with relation to relationships, because this is all about love and connection as well, this G center. Love and direction, I should say, more than connection. Hopefully love and connection go together. Anyway, okay, so the answer is never the one. You guys don't at all feed into the story of the soulmate forevermore, because that might be the case. Like, I need to settle down here a little bit. That might be the case. You might have this amazing person that you navigate life with, but they can never be your one and only. You need to go out in the public aura, just out in the public aura. You don't have to take it any further. Just be in the public aura to allow touch points with these big centers that you have undefined. That's going to draw your circuitry together. So you will never feel whole through the bridges that can be provided, because that one bonded person with you is only providing one fixed way of completion. And that's not how you're designed to operate. You've got the board members. They need consensus. So for example, your partner may only bridge, just say your partner's got a 43-23, like me, poor you, if you've got a partner with a 43-23, we don't shut up. We say everything that comes in our little heads. So if you've got a 43-23 partner, suddenly you've got two of your three areas. They're loving it. They're connected. What's happened down here? Spleen and root are being left out of the party. So eventually, this might feel good for a while, but eventually there will just be this resistance. There will be this friction long term because you are incomplete. Something is not being tapped into here. The remedy for it is, this is great. You've got one fixed form of bonding. You need to take yourself out of your significant other relationship, partnership, work colleagues, those people that provide those fixed ways, and just get out in a public space. All of the possible combinations, not all because it's endless, but as many different touch points and variety needs to be clicked into for you to kind of gather all of these different nuances from all of them that collectively come together to produce your clarity. Okay, so you must move in the world, the public aura. It's about being fluid. Isolation is not healthy for you. You are not here to go and sit on the mountaintop by yourself and ponder your life. No, you're meant to go and sit on the bus for 20 minutes and ponder your life there on different days, on different buses. You get me? Doesn't have to be the bus. Food courts are great for you, just a shopping mall, anywhere where there is public aura. You don't have to go near any of these people. Like, you don't have to talk to anybody. Just being in those different auras, you are going to get different connections pop up, and that is going to bring your clarity. So you need to be in a partnership that respects that you need time out of the partnership and that they're not ever going to be your everything. So for example, if a triple split is with me, a broad split, we don't know how we operate. I'm going to be like, but I should be your everything because you're like my everything. And why isn't that working for you? No, they need to go out and be in the world. Okay, so your truth will always be found outside of your fixed bonds with parents, children, lovers, because these bonds only offer that fixed line of connection, which will only create friction long term because all three of your areas aren't being fluidly accessed. Triple splits. This will change the game for you. I have no doubt. Because, you know, a lot of talk in human design is get away from people, they're conditioning you. You're the opposite. Get in there, get in the pit with them. Like, you need it. It actually cleanses your aura. So I got really excited when I learned this information because I love the juicier and more contrasting human design can get, the deeper that you dive into it. And why it's so key. You don't take homogenizing information and you really look at your own chart and live your own chart. Because, for example, this person here is a manifester, but this could also be a generator. And if you're only following manifestor or generator strategy and authority, and you don't know that you're a triple split, and you're like, oh, well, my emotional authority, I need to take a long time to make my decisions, and it's a real personal pondering. No, get your emotional system out in the world and let it rub up against other auras. And that's how all your circuitry will connect. So quite a different message to what you may have been told. Quad split, very quickly, because you're rare, 0.65%. You are the complete opposite. So you might think, oh, well, then you just apply the same logic for a triple as you do to a quad. There's no logic in human design in many ways. It's mechanical, not necessarily logical. So 4 different areas of separate definition. So I don't even have a chart because I've not had the pleasure to read yet for a quad split because they're so rare. I've managed to read for two different reflectors, and they're rare, but quad split, haven't got one yet. So if you're quad split and you want a reading, get in touch with me. So 4 different areas of separate definition. So the quad split by definition are very defined. The only way that you can be a quad split is you have 8 or 9 out of 9 centers defined. So you're very defined, meaning you're very fixed, and nobody can get in. Nobody can get in because I can't bring my definition to your definition. It's like we're not going to vibe together. So it's like the simple split right from the beginning. The bridges are key. So triple split, centers, quad split, bridges. Find those gates, channels, but don't study them because that won't help you either here. Because you need diverse interactions to rotate how the circuitry gets completed. So it's not random public aura tapping in stuff like the triple split. You are needing to rotate through known connections, family and colleagues, not the public aura. It's more about trusted people. Public spaces don't work because you're not seeking that completion through centers. Bridges are specific for you. So hopefully you've got the correct bridges around you, and that's come through strategy and authority. If you are listening to this now and going, oh, I'm getting a really clear nudge that there is that particular person in my life, and I've had the sense that they're not super healthy, but now I'm thinking if they are so important in my circuitry and my process for my strategy and authority, I'm getting the nudge that maybe they shouldn't be one of my significant people. Because the bridges are specific for you with that person. This is really about sampling. So it's kind of like you go through your people, your inner circle, you're sampling from them, and then you come with your clarity. Wholeness for the quad, it's not easy. It's very difficult for a quad split to feel whole in the world. Wholeness is a whole selection of unique bonds via the bridges with humans and transits. The humans you can choose, the transits you can't choose. It's perfection in the connections. You can't afford a random crowd. Thank you, Ra. No random relationships for you. No casual auric contacts for you. That's triple split stuff, however you want to read into that. Okay, I wanted to complete this presentation here because this is of huge interest to me because I'm a massive dog lover, and now I kind of know why I'm designed to be. So let's just go through this one step at a time. So your mind will cause more, this is just pulling everything together in case I lost you. Your mind will cause more havoc in relationships than your instincts will. But so many of us have disconnected from our instincts. And that's really what our authority is. It's this instinct. It's beyond the mind. Strategy and authority is the greatest skill you can develop to ensure you are entering into and staying in correct relationships. I remember I used to get so bored with hearing strategy and authority over and over about living my human design, most of all from Ra. Other people out there since Ra have wanted to keep making human design seem like sexy and exciting, but Ra was like strategy and authority. It's all strategy and authority. That's the rule. And he's right. And to see it reflected through the definition process as well has been really powerful. It's the simple stuff, guys. We all want it to be complex and exciting, but it's usually what's simple is true. Strategy and authority. If your mind is running your relationships, it's highly likely your conditioned not self is sabotaging or creating codependent bonding. You could actually be in a fantastic relationship, but the conditioning that you have and what your mind is telling you about that could really mess something up that's actually quite healthy for you. And the other way as well. You could be in a very unhealthy, codependent bonding that's actually keeping you out of your strategy and authority, keeping you out of your design. You're not living authentically due to that relationship. It's taking from you, not giving to you. And then you can get trapped in that. So it's all electromagnetic charge, polarity, and openness. I don't want to kill all the dreamers out there about, twin flames and other souls. Like maybe, but if that's true, it's the mechanics. It's the mechanics of the bioform that's creating that. Why do we feel connected? Why do I feel this way with this person? Why do I speak so eloquently and can express myself so well with this person, but when I'm in that room with all those people, I can't? Oh, gee, maybe they've got the 4323 or something that is serving you in your vocal communication and being able to communicate your ideas. And when you're not with that person and you're with that person, you're like, I'm going to start a podcast. And then you're not with that person starting your podcast. I don't know why I did that. Starting your podcast and it's crap because that person was providing that bridge for you to have that talent. So it's temporary. Find your definition and cultivate your talent and your skill through that. Undefined areas are receptors and they can produce two types of outcome. One, the deepest areas of your not self-conditioning, or two, the design of them, profound wisdom. Our openness, our undefined areas are where we go to school in life. Our definition is the student that's going to school. Be the student. Be a good student and allow life to show you the wisdom that life is here to show you through your experiences, navigating that correctly through your strategy and authority. Otherwise, if your openness becomes your conditioning and the not self themes are running your life and the mind is very yoked to that way of doing things, you're going to be really out of alignment. You're going to have a lot of resistance and you're never going to meet your full potential. For splits, your bridges, gates, and channels can blind you to others that actually could be of value because your mind is telling you the others are lacking what you are lacking. So you end up staying at home with your dog. So this is a beautiful, quick segue just into another aspect of relationships here. So many of us can feel very, very bonded with particularly dogs. So if you're not already aware, human design is human design, but Ra received the knowledge for the design of forms. Ra received knowledge for the design of mammals, for birds, for fish, for inanimate objects. He got it all. We're just focusing on humans because, hey, here we are, we're selfish. And, it's important. It's here for us. But dogs are five-centered bioforms. I was going to say beings. They're beings. We love them. There is some really fascinating information that comes through once you see their design, their circuitry, their particular activations within their design. Now, of course, that's just a small aspect of it. But for me, in my particular design, I really, really can bond very, very strongly with dogs. And I have done. And I have been in an era in my life, it kind of still happens most days, where I would rather be with my dog than with other people. And I know there is someone watching this now that feels the same way. You're probably a split definition, but It's beautiful, but it's beautiful when you understand that that's mechanical too. And that if you are staying in the safety of that comfortable conditioning with your dog at home, and your mind is telling you the story that this dog is safe because this dog doesn't judge me, this dog doesn't talk back, they're always loving to me, they're always excited to see me, that's not a real relationship. It's beautiful. It's one of the most profound loves that you will ever experience in your life from a dog and with a dog. But it's not where you're going to gain as much wisdom if you're spending too much time there and you're not out there in the human plane getting properly challenged. Meeting the humans that are here to conspire with you, collaborate with you, teach you things. That's what we're here for. That's the journey of life. So don't get stuck in the comfortable bond splits with dogs that may actually happen for you as well. You may be missing out on that amazing human out there that is just going to create an amazing new era in your life. Temporarily, probably, or for a longer term. Fido may be bridging your split so you feel cozy and safe and complete, but he's limiting your growth and wisdom that's waiting out there in the world with your fellow humans. So, all of this said, this information empowers you in relationship. It shouldn't disempower you. For me, it lifts the veil off the complexity of how humans interact and relate to each other. It offers a big dose of compassion that you're not alone, that your little hidden insecurities or sensations or feelings of lack or incompleteness or desire for that other half to complete you, many of us are feeling the same thing and it drives us together, but make sure it's not driving you to run to the wrong human and waste your time there, your energy there, learn lessons that you don't need to learn in painful ways. Make sure that your mind's stories are also not keeping you away from the relationships that are really here to teach you, that you're here to grow through, because those stories are just as damaging. So I hope this has been of value. I hope that this has given you an incredible landscape of the depth of human design and the depth of what is within you that is going out there onto the world to play on the physical realm. And keep going with your experiment, keep evolving, keep moving through, keep following your strategy and authority, anchor into your definition. Don't be scared of life. Strategy and authority is here for you to support you and to bring you into your signature, whether that be satisfaction, success, surprise, whatever your signature might be. Strategy and authority will lead you there, and the rest is just gathering wisdom and enjoying this beautiful experience that is life while we get it, for as long as we get it. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope this has been of value. If you enjoy this, make sure you follow me on Human Design Beyond 2027 over on Instagram or right here on YouTube for more content.